Folks of the commission, we are indeed live, so whenever you would like to proceed with the session, please go ahead and get started.
Okay. Okay, we all set? Looks like we're all in our places with bright smiling faces.
I assume that's the camera.
All of them, so they go to different angles. So
Yeah.
if you're talking, they'll zoom in on you. Because I asked them as well, like, so which side do I need to?
Well, because I could put that in the camera, I didn't want my back there and covering up the commissioners.
Some days that might be good.
Try to look charming from all angles, Kevin.
I'll take just one.
All right, we're all ready? I'd like to call this meeting of the Clay County Commission to order. We will begin with our invocation. Mr. Administrator, when you are prepared, please proceed.
Pray with me, everybody. Father, we're grateful for blessings in abundance. We're grateful for temperate weather. We're grateful for people's interest in the government of their county. And we ask, Father, that you be with us this evening as we go about the business of that county. We ask this all in Jesus' blessed name. Amen.
Amen. Please stand for the pledge. Thank you. Please call the roll. Here.
Commissioner Thompson,
Here?
Commissioner Carpenter.
Here.
Very good. Before we move on, I just want to go ahead and do one quick housekeeping note, or I guess a couple. One is anyone who cares to comment, please come to the podium over here on the left. Make sure that the little ring is green, not red, so that it is on. Identify yourself if you would, please, and also be sure and speak clearly into the microphone with the masks. It is obviously a little bit more difficult to enunciate and to project our voices, but we will work with that the best we can. The other thing is that, and I will, now that we're ending into our third month here soon, I will probably not need to make this reminder, but as we go through votes, I will not be voting under our new constitution. The presiding commissioner only votes under specific circumstances, so please do not take my not voting as either support or non-support of any of the issues that we vote on. It is just the protocol. So I will be voting on ties and other very specific circumstances. With that, we're happy to have people here in our meeting. Also, I want to make sure that we all are aware to practice the protocols of masks, social distancing, and the other regulations from our health department. With that, we will continue now. We will go now to the approval of the agenda. I would ask if there is a motion related to approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
Motion has been made for approval of the agenda. Discussion, are there any additions, deletions, or any other alterations, or any other discussion on the agenda? Commissioner Carpenter.
No, thank you.
I have none. Commissioner Thompson, if you would like to make any other comments and then go to close.
I close.
Please call the roll on approval of the agenda.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes?
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Meeting schedule, Mr. Administrator.
Well, Commissioners, we have scheduled our next meeting under the new format that was approved by ordinance. It will be a work session on this coming Thursday, March the 4th, 2021, and it will be at 10 a.m. And again, it will be characterized as a work session.
Very good. Thank you. That brings us to honorary resolutions. There are none listed. Public hearings. There are no public hearings listed. So that brings us to our commission session. First on the agenda is 2021-36. Mr. Administrator.
Commissioners, Resolution 2021-36 relates to approving the equitable sharing agreement an annual certification report from the Sheriff's Office. I would defer to Captain Agdarian for comments on that.
Please proceed.
Good evening, Commissioners. Captain Amy Agdarian, Clay County Sheriff's Office Administration Division. The item before you tonight is the annual approval of the Department of Justice Asset Forfeiture Program application, essentially. This is something that we do annually, and it allows us to work with the federal government to receive a portion of items, monies, vehicles, various things that are received in the course of law enforcement actions. So this is just something that we do every year. This has actually come before you. This is the second time now. I needed to make a correction on the annual budget for the Sheriff's Office.
Okay. Could you give us an idea of some of the uses that these funds are put to?
Oh, absolutely.
Please.
Sure. There are certain guidelines that we have to operate within. The funds can only be used for certain kinds of actions, certain kinds of activities and equipment. These funds cannot replace any funding of the Sheriff's Office operating budget, but it can be used to supplement that budget. So for instance, there have been seizures of cash that have gone to purchase equipment when the operating budget was not able to support those purchases. Recently, we were able to use this money for purchase of a vehicle for one of our detectives, one of our canine detectives, who is actually very responsible for a lot of the work in this seizure arena, so to speak. I mean, he does a lot of work with the federal government, so we were able to assist by purchasing a vehicle so that he could continue to work his canine. So things like that. It can't be used for frivolous things. It can't be used for purchase of food or for meals or anything like that.
Very well. Is there a motion related to 2021-36?
Commissioner, I move that we approve 2021-36.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2021-36. Discussion. Commissioner Thompson? Okay. Commissioner Carpenter?
I just appreciate the explanation and look forward to moving this forward.
Thank you.
And is there any comment from any member of the public? Any other comments? Seeing none, I will go to Commissioner Carpenter to close.
I renew my motion.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes?
2021-36 has been approved. 2021-38, Mr. Administrator?
Commissioners, 2021-38 is to approve a sole source vendor, that being Dave Ramsey Solutions, for smart dollar budgeting and debt reduction software used by the Sheriff's Office. Captain Agdarian.
Please proceed.
Captain Amy Agdarian, Clay County Sheriff's Office Administration Division. This request for approval is for a one-year use of software from the Dave Ramsey Smart Dollar program. And the reason that we applied for a sole source on this is it's the only software that we've found that, number one, our personnel are somewhat familiar with, because over the years, we have taught the Financial Peace University classes within the Sheriff's Office. And so a lot of our personnel are familiar with the tenets of Dave Ramsey's teachings. And we felt like this would be a good tool to offer our personnel to learn about budgeting, debt reduction, responsible spending. And so we reached out to them to look into this one-year contract, we don't do that, but one-year purchase of software so that our personnel can access these materials and use them to their advantage for their household.
Very well. Is there a motion related to 2021-38?
I'll make the motion to adopt 2021-38.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2021-38. Discussion. Commissioner Carpenter? Commissioner Thompson?
I close.
Is there anyone from the public who would care to comment? Seeing none. Commissioner closes. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
2021-38 has been approved. That brings us to 2021-48. Mr. Administrator?
Commissioners, 2021-48 is to approve a continuing law enforcement education contract with the Missouri Sheriff's Association, the Sheriff's Office, and I would defer to Captain Agdarian for further comment.
Please proceed.
Once again, Amy Agdarian, Clay County Sheriff's Office Administration Division Captain. I'd like to thank you for making this sort of the Sheriff's Office agenda tonight. We just kind of had a lot of things come up all at once. This item is a request, it's kind of an odd item. It's a request for your approval for the contract that is signed by Sheriff Aiken to enter into a trading agreement with the Missouri Sheriff's Association.
Okay. Is there a motion related to 2021-48?
I, Commissioner, move that we approve 2021-48.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2021-48. Discussion, Commissioner Thompson.
No comment.
Okay. Is there any comment from anyone from the public, or anyone here assembled? Seeing none. Commissioner Carpenter, if you'd like to make any closing comments and close.
I just want to thank the captain again for the explanation and look forward to moving it forward. I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
2021-48 has been approved. That brings us to 2021-49. Mr. Administrator?
Commissioners, 2021-49 is to approve a grant application with the Missouri Department of Transportation and the Traffic and Highway Safety Division for youth alcohol enforcement, the Sheriff's Office, and Captain Agdarian.
Amy Agdarian, Clay County Sheriff's Office, Administration Division. I apologize, I interrupted you there, jumped the gun. This item is an application. It's request to approve us, the Sheriff's Office, to apply for a grant with Missouri the Missouri Department of Transportation for the purpose of conducting activities that enforce the denial of sales to minors, essentially is what happens. We have a group of deputies that go out and just conduct checks to make sure that stores are not selling alcoholic beverages to underage kiddos.
Okay. Is there a motion related to 2021-49?
I'll make the motion to approve 2021-49.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2021-49. Discussion. When I was with the state, one of the things that the Highway Patrol did were similar things. Do you work in cooperation with them, or are they parallel operations in this field?
You know, this grant establishes overtime funding for the personnel from the Sheriff's Office, but, you know, I don't really know if we actually work in tandem with them. I mean, sometimes they might have an activity going on that there are other agencies in the area, but this particular grant goes only to fund our overtime.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Carpenter, did you have any questions or comments?
No.
Are there any questions or comments from anyone in the assembled here? I see none. Commissioner Thompson, I'll go to you for any final comments and close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Thank you.
2021-49 has been approved. That brings us to 2021-50. Mr. Administrator?
Commissioners, 2021-50 is to approve a grant application to the Missouri Department of Transportation, Traffic and Highway Safety Division for DWI Enforcement Saturation Patrol. The Sheriff's Office, Captain Agdarian.
Please proceed.
Amy Agdarian, Clay County Sheriff's Office, Captain Administration Division. This item is a request to apply for a grant with the Missouri Department of Transportation for the specific purpose of conducting DWI enforcement in the form of a saturation patrol. So we would be going out onto the roadways, actively looking for impaired drivers.
Thank you. Is there a motion related to 2021-50?
I make a motion that we approve 2021-50.
Motion's been made for the approval of 2021-50. Discussion. Commissioner Thompson.
No comment.
I would just say, I mean, I realize it does feel a little like the sheriff's show coming up, the first part of this agenda, but to tell you the truth, they are all good news. It's all funding coming in to help the sheriff's department do the good work that they do, and we certainly appreciate both the duty done to this county by the deputies and the staff, and we also certainly greatly appreciate the diligence with which the sheriff's department has been pursuing these grants to help take some of the pressure off of the funding that comes from our local sources, our local taxpayers. Are there any comments from anyone in the room? Seeing none. Commissioner Carpenter, if you'd like to make any questions or comments and close.
Thank you. I'd actually like to ask Captain Agderian a question, if that would be right. Thank you, Captain. So saturation patrols are my pretty strong preference for DWI enforcement. I prefer them both because I think they're superior to checkpoints, as well as I think they have less issues in terms of civil liberty and constitutional concerns. Is this grant specific to saturation? It doesn't include DWI checkpoints, is that correct?
No, it does not.
Okay.
These are active patrols out on the roadways, moving vehicles.
Perfect. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's great. Thank you. And I close.
Very good. Please call the roll.
Who made that motion?
That was Commissioner Carpenter made the motion.
Okay. Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes?
That brings us to, 2021-50 has been approved. That brings us to 2021-51. Mr. Administrator?
Commissioners, 2021-51 is to approve a grant application to the Missouri Department of Transportation Traffic and Highway Safety Division for a hazardous moving violation enforcement. The Sheriff's Office, Captain Agderian.
Please proceed.
Amy Agderian, Clay County Sheriff's Office, Captain Administration Division. This request is for application or approval of application for a grant with Missouri Department of Transportation for the purpose of enforcing moving violations. Unlike the other grants that we've applied for or requested approval to apply for, that include monies for salaries and overtime, this grant application includes an additional $32,385 for purchase of a speed alert trailer. It's a radar messaging sign to provide signage for motorists for safety. All right, and so I say that, I apologize. That might actually just be a radar trailer. I apologize. I don't have the grant itself in front of me. My point here is this one includes a request for equipment as well as funding for the overtime for the personnel. None of this is a cost to the county.
Very good. Thank you. Is there a motion related to 2021-51?
Make the motion to approve 2021-51.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2021-51. Discussion. Commissioner Carpenter?
Thank you.
Something that strikes me as very important about this is, and I've seen more and more data over the past several years, and that is that the percentage of fatalities related to traffic accidents seems to be increasing, which is something that is obvious, very much of a concern. So hopefully this kind of support will help to not just reduce the number of deaths, but the number of accidents as people become more and more conscious of the safety and the caution they need to exercise as they're operating their vehicles.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Are there any comments or questions from the audience? Seeing none, Commissioner Thompson, if you have any questions or comments, and then you're free to close.
I'll just say, I've been pretty quiet, but I love seeing you guys up here, and this is kind of the sheriff's show tonight, but as always, love seeing you guys, and I love the fact that you were able to point out that these are grants, so this is no additional cost to the county. So I think it's wonderful. So
Yes.
I close with that.
Thank
Please
you.
call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes?
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
2021-51 has been approved. That brings us to 2021-52. Mr. Administrator?
Commissioners, 2021-52 is to approve a grant application to the Missouri Department of Transportation, Traffic and Highway Safety Division for highway safety enforcement for occupant protection enforcement. Sheriff's Department, Captain Agdarian.
Please proceed.
Amy Agdarian, Clay County Sheriff's Office, Captain Administration Division. This request is for approval to apply for a grant with Missouri Department of Transportation for the purpose of enforcing seat belts, occupant restraint enforcement.
Is there a motion related to 2021-52?
I move that we approve 2021-52.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2021-52. Discussion, Commissioner Thompson. Is there anyone in the audience here who would care to comment? Seeing none, Commissioner Carpenter, if you would like to make any questions or comments, and then close.
Thank you. Just a brief questions. So, in terms of increased or better funded enforcement, what does that typically look like in terms of the enforcement? Like what's the idea for the funding here in terms of improved enforcement of seatbelt?
Oh, you know what? Actually, I'm going to call on Lieutenant Kevin Bennett, who is here for another purpose. But if you wouldn't mind joining me, because I believe you've worked some of these, haven't you? Both of you have? So can you explain a little bit about the differences that you use the occupant restraint as opposed to maybe the hazardous moving vehicles?
Well, the hazardous moving vehicles is more of tailgating, road rage, speeding, and the seatbelt is strictly going out and getting speeder, but then we're in secondary tickets of a seatbelt or not being properly restrained. Is that what you're asking?
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that's very helpful. In terms of, are folks getting pulled over just for a seatbelt, or is it always a secondary
It's
offense?
a secondary ticket.
Okay. Very good. No, that's fantastic. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Really appreciate that.
I'm sorry, did you close?
I close. Yeah.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes?
2021-52 has been approved. That brings us to 2021-60. Mr. Administrator.
Commissioners, 2021-60 is a resolution from the Sheriff's Office to approve a transfer between funds. Captain Agdarian.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Amy Agdarian, Clay County Sheriff's Office, Captain Administration Division. This is a request to transfer $5,122 from the Sheriff's Office personnel budget to the Public Administrator's personnel budget for the purpose of addressing the salary restructure that the Sheriff's Office is implementing for our deputy that is assigned full-time to the Public Administrator's office. We don't believe that it is responsible of us or reasonable of us to expect that the Public Administrator would pick up that additional funding for something that we chose to implement and were able to, thank you, Commission and Budget Team. So we would like to make that transfer. And I do need to call your attention to this. On the RCA, under the explanation, I believe Brandy Little is passing out some paperwork to you. This is actually a corrected RCA. I caught this about 10 minutes before I walked up here tonight, that the purpose of this transfer is not for a 2% COLA, as it says in the original RCA that you have. This transfer is for the purpose of a salary restructure. No county employee, sheriff's office or otherwise, was able to receive a COLA this year. I want to make sure that paperwork reflects correctly what this money is being transferred for.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, and I apologize for that oversight on my part.
Mr. Administrator, excuse me, Mr. Counselor, would it be good practice for us to entertain an amendment to 2021-60 to incorporate this, or is it sufficient what we're doing here today? There's the extra. So that's on page 3. Okay, so we can just, should I refer to it as altered or as, well, it's not really been amended, so what would be my best verbiage?
With attachment.
Okay, with attachment. Is there a motion to approve 2021-60 with the attachment that has just been distributed?
I'll make the motion to approve 2021-60 with the attachment that has been distributed.
Very well. Motion's been made on 2021-60. Discussion. Commissioner Carpenter, did you have any questions, or
I do not, thanks.
is there anyone from the audience who would like to make any comment or question? Seeing none, Commissioner Thompson, if you would like to have any questions or comments, and then close.
I want to thank you, Captain Aguirre, for taking the time to make sure we got the correct paperwork on that. I was glancing through it earlier this week, and I had a
That's
couple
your copy.
questions, but thank you for clearing that up for me. So,
You're welcome.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
yes?
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
2160 has been approved. Thank you very much, and we appreciate you coming in, and, anytime you want to come in and just hang out for about a half an hour, just feel free.
Thank you for your patience tonight.
Commissioner, could we get that person's name and title? I don't think I heard her say it.
It might have been mentioned once or twice. Moving on with our commission session agenda, that brings us to 2021-61. Mr. Administrator?
Commissioners, 2021-61 is to approve a county aid road trust agreement with the Missouri Department of Conservation from the Highway Department. I would defer to the Deputy Administrator for any comments.
Please proceed.
Good evening, Commission. Carl Walters with Highway Department. This agreement is with the Missouri Department of Conservation. As you see on the very back page, you'll see the outline of the roads that we turn around and maintain with the Cooley Lake down off N Highway and 210. We regularly maintain them, but they want to turn around and make sure that they're maintained well for the people that are coming down there to go fishing. Any roads that turn around and attach to that Cooley Lake. So they've made acquired monies to set aside for if they turn around and see that they need a little extra rock onto them, that they turn around and get permission from their people to add that rock. Then they find out what the tonnage is, the cost and stuff, and then they'll let us know how much to turn around and put on it, and then we haul it for them, and then we maintain it. So basically, it's just an agreement, and they buy the rock.
And just for those who are listening, this is CART funding, and that is an acronym that stands for County Aid Road Trust. Just
Trust.
so
Correct.
sometimes it's easy to get into the jargon, and we'll make sure everybody is aware of what we're taking up here tonight. Is there a motion related to 2021-61?
I move that we approve 2021-61.
Motion's been made for the approval of 2021-61. Discussion, Commissioner Thompson.
No questions.
Is there anyone from the audience who would like to make any question or comment? Seeing none, Commissioner Carpenter, if you would like to make any comments or questions, and then close.
Thank you. I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes?
2021-61 has been approved. That brings us to 2021-54. Mr. Administrator?
Commissioners, 2021-54 is to approve payment to the University of Missouri Extension. It is a part of an annual renewal of the relationship that we have with that organization, asking for approval.
Very well. This is, by the way, this is all, and there'll be several of these. These are all items, Mr. Administrator, that were approved during the budget process. Is that correct?
That is correct. Every item is in the budget and
Thank you very
approved.
much. Is there a motion related to 2021-54?
I'll make the motion to approve 2021-54.
Motion is made for the approval of 2021-54. Discussion, Commissioner Carpenter? Is there any comment from anyone here in the audience? I'm sorry, Mr. Administrator, did you want, you were the one handling it, you didn't pass it off to the budget team, so we're good to go.
Yes, you are, absolutely.
Just wanted to make sure I didn't skip over anybody.
Not at all.
Commissioner Thompson, this is your motion, so if you'd like to ask any questions, make any comments, and then close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes?
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
2021-54 has been approved. That brings us to 2021-55. Mr. Administrator.
Commissioners, 2021-55 is another annual agreement renewal to approve professional services, to approve a professional services agreement and payment to North Healthcare Access. This, again, is another approved budget item.
And that would be in the amount of $30,000 in this particular case.
Yes, $30,000.
Thank you. Is there a motion related to 2021-55?
I move that we approve 2021-55.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2021-55. Discussion, Commissioner Thompson?
I'm good, thank you.
Anyone from the audience care to comment or ask a question? Seeing none, Commissioner Carpenter, it's your motion, so you may make comments and close.
Just that I think this is a great use of county funds and look forward to moving it forward. I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes?
That the 2021-55 has been approved. That brings us to 2021-56. Mr. Administrator.
Commissioners, 2021-56 is another renewal of an approved relationship with the Clay County Soil and Water Conservation District. This is to approve the expenditure of $5,000 for this particular year, and again, that's an approved budget item.
Is there a motion related to 2021-56?
Make the motion to approve 2021-56.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2021-56. Discussion, Commissioner Carpenter.
No, thank you.
Is there any comment or question from anyone here in the audience? Seeing none. Commissioner Thompson, it's your motion, so you can make comment and close when you're prepared.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes?
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
2021-56 has been approved. That brings us to 2021-57. Mr. Administrator.
Commissioners, 2021-57 is another annual renewal of a relationship with Northland Neighborhoods Incorporated and that's to approve a professional services agreement and payment in the amount of $75,000 for 2021, another approved budget item.
Is there a motion related to 2021-57?
I move that we approve 2021-57.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2021-57. Discussion, Commissioner Thompson.
No, thank you, I'm good, thanks.
Is there any comment or question? If you have a comment or question, just go on up to the podium there and state your name. And make sure that the green light is on, of course.
My name is Sam Scarfino, Liberty, and I'm just curious what the funds would be used for with this organization.
I don't know if the budget team is quite prepared to answer that. I will try to address it, but if since the application was made, my understanding is that this is would be for their general operating costs for that organization, and they do rehabs and that sort of a thing. They do a lot of community work, and they administer some of the programs like the CHAMP program. I believe some years ago they were administering that. Is there anybody who would like to add anything to that explanation?
If you wish, I can read the scope of services right out of the
Yeah, I was
agreement.
gonna say, the scope of services is what I would look at. And
That's a good point. Go ahead.
There's sub-items A through O, so approximately 15 or so different items in the scope of services, applying for and administering grants, leadership building and Northland organizing and planning, crime prevention, formation of partnerships with community leaders, liaison between the Clay County neighborhoods and government entities, provide meeting space as needed, provide a computer and a copier for use of neighborhood leaders, an assistance center, maintenance of their website, facilitate cleanups, coordinate monthly meetings, assist neighborhoods with applications for grants, coordinate comprehensive code training, provide a resource library for leadership for neighborhood leaders, and sponsor home buyer training workshops are the scope of services. And I ran through those, and those aren't, there's probably more to each one of those, but those are the items in the contract.
Do you have any idea what % of their annual budget this would be? I know Northland, I know the organization's been around for quite a little while.
Yeah.
I'm-
And I
I
don't
know they're involved with rental property to a degree. but I haven't really seen anything tangible that they have done.
Yeah,
Oh.
I know one provision that the contract has and has had for many years is that this has to be spread out among different cities. It can't be more than 50% to any one city. So it isn't just aimed at one city and only one city.
Counselor, read
Okay.
element D right there too as well, right under what you just said, a commitment that
Oh,
they've made.
Yep, and they have to give us a copy of their current budget within 30 days.
And I believe there's some of their financials are attached. I gave you my copy of the resolution, so certainly if you want to take a moment to look at that.
And, yeah, and it looks like it's about $2 million, if I'm understanding it correctly.
John, Mr. Carpenter, I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, I think you asked about their overall budget and what percentage this would be. It looks to me like the total budget is about 2 million. If I'm glancing at it now with you, it's on the last page of the
So this is,
resolution.
this is definitely not a major part of their budget.
It is not. And
I
my
mean, it-
recollection is this has also
Okay.
not been adjusted for years. This amount has stayed static for years.
Okay, I appreciate the information. Could I hold on to this?
Yeah, please go ahead and
for-
keep that if you'd like.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on 2021-57 from any members of the public or the audience? Seeing none, Commissioner Thompson, I'll go back just because it's been a moment or two. Did you have any other comments before we go to Commissioner Carpenter?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Carpenter, it is your motion, so if you would like to make any comments or questions and then close.
Thank you. I renew my motion.
Thank you. Please call the roll on 2021-57.
Commissioner Carpenter,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes?
2021-57 has been approved. That brings us to 2021-58. Mr. Administrator.
Commissioners, 2021-58 is another annual renewal of a professional services agreement. This one was with Rebuilding Together Kansas City Incorporated in the amount of $15,000 for the year 2021. It is an approved budgeted item, and that particular amount is essentially a 50% reduction in the amount that they were granted last year.
Thank you for the context there. That's good to know that the contrast with last year. With that said, is there a motion on 2021-58?
Make a motion to approve 2021-58.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2021-58. Discussion, Commissioner Carpenter?
Yeah, just that is an organization I've followed for a while, and I think they do great work. And once again, would reiterate that I think this is a good use of county funds. I'll be voting yes.
Thank you very much. I see a member of the public has once again come to the podium to comment on 2021-58. Please proceed.
Sam Scarfino, Liberty. I want to make sure that the commission is aware that this organization just this week closed their retail store. I wanted to be sure that the rest of the organization was still going to be functioning.
Could you speak a little bit more into the microphone, please?
I wanted the commission to know that Rebuilding Together closed their retail outlet on Church Road, I think it is. I just want to be sure the rest of that organization is going to remain intact because I know they do some very good work.
As far as I know, the other, I want to say there's another location. I'm not coming up with where it is, but my understanding is they're still in operation. I hope so anyway. I haven't gotten that update, but yes, certainly we would hope they do. The good work they do, I would hope would be able to be continued. Thank you. Commissioner Carpenter, do you have any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Are there any other comments from anyone in the public? Seeing none, Commissioner Thompson, your motion, so if you have any questions, and you may close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes?
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
2021-58 has been approved. That brings us to 2021-59. Mr. Administrator.
Commissioners, 2021-59 is to approve a renewal of a professional services agreement and payment with Children's Mercy Hospital in the amount of $7,000 for the year 2021. That is another approved budgeted item, and it's the same amount as was approved last year.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion related to 2021-59?
I move that we approve 2021-59.
Motion is made for the approval of 2021-59. Discussion, Commissioner Thompson?
No questions, thank you.
Is there any comment or question from anyone present? Seeing none, Commissioner Carpenter, your motion, so you are free to make whatever comments and close.
Thank you. I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes?
2021-59 has been approved. That brings us to 2021-53, which is the last item on our commission agenda for this evening. Mr. Administrator, please proceed.
Commissioners, 2021-53 is a renewal of an appointment for Mr. Gary Zabarak as the County Health Officer. He is currently that, and this is a reappointment to that position.
Is there a motion related to 2021-53?
I'll make the motion to approve 2021-53.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2021-53. Discussion? Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes, thank you. Just quick housekeeping question. Did we extend an invitation to Mr. Zabarak to be here this evening?
Yes, I did reach out to Mr. Zabarak. We thought that it might be a better way to go would be to have him come in and give us an update on some of the health-related items, knowing that we had a rather extensive schedule tonight. I had asked if he would be interested in possibly being at our next work session.
Oh, good.
Where we have a little more extended period of time.
Okay. No, I'm glad to hear that. One of the things we had discussed last week was getting some of the additional CARES Act funds that the county is in possession of to the max vaccination effort at Cerner. And obviously, the Clay County Public Health Department is part of that consortium making that happen. So I, would love to discuss with him, confirm with him that the funds would be helpful to that effort, which I'm very confident that the answer is yes. But that being said, it's always good to get details and look forward to hopefully maybe we can do that next week if possible. Although if it's a work session, I guess we'll have to.
It would be a two-part, unless there were an emergency involved. If they were, for instance, if they were running out of funding, then that could constitute maybe an emergency on our part, but my perception right now is there would be no particular emergency related. The other thing is that my understanding is that the health centers, Clay County Health Centers, are in fact part of the consortium that is working with Cerner on those vaccination sites. And I think what we would need would be to have a formal request from those entities, or if they are under one umbrella group, that would formally request those monies and also outline the specific uses so that we would, I have every confidence that they would spend them well, but I want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence.
Oh, I agree. I think that would make a lot of sense. So hopefully we can do that over the next 2 weeks perhaps and get that finalized a couple weeks from now. I think it's, like we discussed last week, I think it's a very important thing going on, and if we can be helpful, I think we should. So
Yes, sir.
That's all. Thanks.
By the way, I did a couple of weeks ago get my my COVID-19 vaccination. I, for better or worse, qualified due to my advanced age. So I went through the process of getting online, putting my name in the hat, and then they called me when my turn came up, and it was a pleasant experience. It was since we did bring this up, although it's not directly related to Mr. Zabarak's nomination here. Still, I think it's relevant enough. They were running a very organized operation. They were able to get people through. I can report that at least in my particular case, the side effects were very minimal, and that it was all in all a well-run operation. So that's kind of my take on that particular situation. Are there any comments or questions from anyone in the audience? See, no, not on 2021-53. Commissioner Thompson, it is your motion, so you can make any comments you would care to, and then close when you are prepared.
Thank you. My only question is, was Mr. Zabarak the only applicant?
He is the only one that I'm aware of. It is traditional that the person who is the executive director of the Clay County Health Centers is also in this role. It is by no means required, And I don't know the state statute right off the top of my head, but this is an appointment that we as a commission make as required by state statute, and it must be done within the month of February. Is that correct, Mr. Counselor?
That's correct. It's Chapter 205, 100, and I read it to say that, and this has been the case for many years, that the county is obligated to appoint whomever holds that title at the county health center. So we don't appoint that person, we just designate essentially the director of the public health center as our county health officer. So it's a little ministerial in nature. We don't have a lot of discretion.
Mr. Counselor, if you don't mind, I'd like to follow up. Is this, so really the authority that the executive director enjoys largely flows from his appointment by the health board, and ours is more, I don't want to say ceremonial because I don't want to necessarily disparage it, but it is of lesser consequence.
It's a ministerial function, I think, is how I would describe it. The public health center, they appoint a director. The statute says whomever they appoint, we appoint as our county health officer. And he holds that position, and so I think it is incumbent upon us to designate him as our county health officer.
Thank you for for allowing me to get in there, Commissioner Thompson. Please continue with any comments or questions you have.
No, that's all I had. Thank you for the clarification. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page moving forward.
Yep.
But yeah, likewise. Yep.
Thank you. Please call the roll on 2021-53.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
2021-53 has been approved. That completes our commission session agenda. We seem to be going through this with a relatively nice clip. Excuse me. That brings us to discussion items. There's only one item under discussion. Bicentennial Commission formation. That's something that I had requested to be on for discussion. I'll go ahead and just give a quick outline on kind of what my thoughts are on that, then open it up for discussion, and then get a feel from the commission of where we would like to go as far as any actions that we would take in the future. Obviously, Missouri is celebrating its bicentennial this year, and I believe the administrator has a little bit of information. I'll go to him in a few moments related to some of the events that are coming from the state. Clay County was organized January 2, 1822, which means that would be our bicentennial date. I think we're in a good position here as far as assembling a commission to examine how we commemorate this. My thought is that we would use this as a way to obviously promote the attributes of Clay County, that we would highlight our assets. One of the things, and I'm not sure, but I understand that there's also a similar kind of a celebration going on in Liberty, but I would like to get a little more information. I talked to City Council Member Phillips about that, and I think if we can partner not just with the City of Liberty, which is of course our county seat, but some of the other municipalities to help participate, I think we can make this a very nice county-wide celebration. We can be looking at whatever events, but whether we have perhaps at the end of this year or the beginning of next, maybe some kind of a fair or some sort of an event. I think this is our chance to really shine as a real economic engine here in the metro area. And I think there's a lot of historical businesses that have been here in this county, been doing business in this county, and providing us with the prosperity and the lifestyle that we enjoy. There are also many institutions, William Drew College obviously being one of them. So what I would propose is that we look to put together a commission of perhaps 7 to 9 members. I'm kind of open to that. That we task them with the idea of trying to put together this kind of a promotional piece for us so that we can start working in that direction. I think we're hitting this at the right time, to tell you the truth. I think we're in really good shape. But what we need to do are two things, not necessarily at this moment, but I think we're going to need to come up with what we want this commission to look like should we decide to put one together as far as number of members, perhaps be thinking in terms of geographic diversity. And then we also need to think in terms of what our mission is going to be that we task them with. I think this is really, like I say, an opportunity for us to shine and to really put our best foot forward. So I'm very excited about this, particularly from the point of view that we are, this is another transitional moment for Clay County, in addition to our new constitution, in addition to our new commission. I think we are looking at yet another example of how Clay County is moving forward, and I think we have the ability to really to really shine in this moment. So with that, I will go to the administrator, who I think had found some information that he'd like to share.
Sure, just a couple comments. I guess we all know that Missouri gained statehood in 1821 because that's what it says on the quarters that the Mint printed on there. So we have that confirmation. But in reality, I would suggest that the state has really kind of taken an early lead on this, and that's good. And I think we have an opportunity to, in some ways, coattail or piggyback on the efforts of the state. The actual date of our statehood was August the 10th of 1821, and the state has plans to have a statewide celebration in anybody's locality on that particular day. But I would submit that there's a probable expectation that the state will continue to offer additional guidance and additional commentary on what is planned to happen. Most people know that we claim to be the Missouri claims to be the developer of the ice cream cone. And so at this particular stage of the development, the state has suggested that perhaps all the various municipalities that want to participate might have some kind of an ice cream social event on the 10th of August of 2021, and I think that's a good start. And again, I anticipate that they would probably give additional guidance or maybe just additional encouragement, and there'll probably be some opportunities for publications and advertising and things like that. It almost goes without saying that it's the right thing to do, is to get on the bandwagon on this, because this is a pretty seminal moment, the 200th anniversary of our statehood. I also know that they are communicating regularly with our elected officials in Jefferson City, and those elected officials will be conduits of information to us. And so from the administrative standpoint, I'm committing to taking that information, making sure it's disseminated, and that we have the opportunity to react to that. And if we decide to blow out the doors, then we can do that, or if we decide to make it a little more low-key or whatever. But we do have something of a template in the form of an ice cream social type event that we could kind of build from that on. And I just encourage the commission to embrace this and kind of take it and run with it to the degree we can. Get people involved. You mentioned a commission or a committee. I think that's probably a good start.
And I think as well, I think we would have some luck in having some businesses come forward and be sponsors of some of this. Certainly it would help to give us the capital to work with if we could have some sponsors. But let me throw this open to the other commissioners. Does either commissioner want to start off on their part of the discussion?
I totally agree. We ought to move forward with this. It makes a lot of sense to me, and working in coordination with the state makes sense as well. So I look forward to getting the ball rolling on it.
Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, Commissioner. I think this sounds like a lot of fun, and I think we kind of need a little fun right now, and hopefully by the time August rolls around, things will look a little different in our county, and partnering with our other municipalities, I think would be a great opportunity. And who doesn't like ice cream? I don't know. I like ice cream. I like parties, so I think we should.
By the way, just for historical purposes, I was in the legislature when we discussed this whole ice cream cone issue. And it seems that it was, from what I remember, from what I understand, it was at the St. Louis Exposition.
1904, yes.
There you go.
St. Louis World's Fair.
If I remember correctly, maybe you seem to have some knowledge of this. Apparently there was one vendor who was selling waffles, another was selling ice cream. And it was just a match made in heaven, what can I say?
I was actually there, and it was a little sloppy, but it was still kind of cool.
We all seem to be pretty well in agreement to move forward with this. I think we need to probably think in terms of a timeline. And I'm thinking in terms of possibly taking this up at the next meeting, at least the idea of putting it together, maybe come up with some idea of where we're going, with the idea of possibly having members seated and in place by the end of March. So I don't want to rush the process, but on the other hand, I do realize we're burning daylight. So does anybody have a feel for how that timeline feels? Does it feel comfortable as far as being able to accomplish what we need to do? Okay.
No, that sounds good to me. You know, you mentioned 7 or 9 members. I'm not sure that I've got an especially strong opinion on it. It doesn't seem to me that this needs to be an odd number, though, because I don't anticipate this being like a tie vote situation coming out of this. So the number ultimately probably doesn't matter too much, and happy to do whatever y'all think is correct.
No, I think that's. I kind of gravitate towards 9 because. While under our Constitution, I would obviously make the appointments, what I would be looking for would be to have perhaps 3 selections that were comfortable for each commissioner and work it with that process. We also want to allow time for any interested parties to be able to make that interest known to us. And once we have put this into process, I assume the best route to go forward would be to allow applicants to at least, maybe not initially, but certainly in the process, to put their applications in on the website, which has a place for those kinds of applications. But until we have actually formulated the committee or the commission, then it's obviously a bit early for that. So I will try to put something together if this is okay, and I'll request that it be put on to our next meeting agendas for us to discuss, and then we can kind of work it from there. As I say, with the object of having it, that committee seated perhaps by the end of March so that they can start their work. Is there any further discussion on that? Are there any comments or observations from anyone in the room apart from commission? Very well, that ends the discussion on the potential Bicentennial Commission for Clay County. That brings us to comments on agenda items. Now we're going to be next week, just as a reminder, we're going to be switching over to the agenda format that we had voted on before. So this is going to be the last time that we go to revisit comments on agenda items. It always struck me as kind of odd that we would ask for comments after we voted on something. It seemed a rather wrong order. However, since this is the agenda that we have on our books at the moment, I will go through that. Is there any member of the public who would care to speak on an item that appeared on our agenda this evening? I see none. Are there any commissioners who would care to comment on any items that were on our agenda this evening? Seeing none. Are there any office holders who would like to comment on any of the items that appeared on our agenda this evening? Seeing none. Are there any agencies or any others who would care to comment on items that appeared on our agenda this evening? Once again, seeing none. That brings us to comments on non-agenda items. Are there any members of the public who would like to comment on items not on the agenda? Please make your way to the podium and make sure that the microphone is on so that we can hear your comments.
Sam Scarfino, Liberty. I understand that the federal government has provided Clay County with funding to assist tenants and landlords. That funding has been divided into 2 parts, Kansas City, Clay County, and non-Kansas City, Clay County. I was hoping to get an update as to the status of how Clay County is going to proceed so that we can help some tenants and some landlords.
Do you want to take them, Mr. Administrator, or would you like me to? As far
Maybe
as
we could tag team. No, I'd be happy to make comments. If you want to lead off, I'll fill in anything you don't say.
Right. Yes, the federal government, that is more specifically the Treasury Department of the U.S. government, has made funding available for emergency rental program purposes. That would be for individuals who were not able to make their rents due to circumstances related to COVID-19, whether it be job loss or others. It also would allow for some payment of utilities. We got the funding directly because we are a political subdivision with over 200,000 persons. That being said, that is to say the commission here has the ability to distribute those funds in non-Kansas City, Clay County. Kansas City, Clay County would in fact fall under the city of Kansas City, and those funds would be distributed through that entity. We are right now working on, I think the term might be like the front door or whatever, so that we are able to begin taking applications, which that will be rolled out rather shortly. I want to, apart from everyone else in this room here who has have been working on this, I do want to highlight that our auditor, Victor Hurlbert, has taken lead, and that Treasurer Bob Nance have both been working very hard on this issue to bring it together. The application process would I don't know if requires the right word, and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds, but my understanding is that it would be, we would require information from both the tenant and the landlord, so that we would be able to make sure that that payment was made, and that a way of just basically doing the due diligence and the tracking. So I don't want to get too specific on exactly where we are in the process, because I don't want to paint our team into a corner that's working on this. But I think we are on the verge of rolling it out. But like I said, I don't want to nail them down too tightly, because things can happen, and I want to make sure if we say something is going to happen on a certain date, that we will have it happen on a certain date. So I would certainly defer to those who have done the heavy lifting on this as far as that goes. Mr. Administrator, would you like to add anything to that?
I'll just add a couple of details that's public. We received as a county $3.6 million for our funding, and that is intended to be a 90-10 split, 90% being given to the necessary, or the applicants, if you will, and 10% is set aside for administrative costs. And the reason for that is we have to involve quite a number of agencies, because it's a very complex issue, and many of these agencies that we are in conversation with have experience at managing and administering these kind of projects. Just as an example, as a comparison, Kansas City received in excess of $14 million for their particular funding. Again, that's because they are reaching out to residents in Platte County and residents in Clay County, as well as Jackson County. So we are also working in conjunction with Missouri Housing Development Commission. They are kind of the lead agency on this. We have engaged ourselves with United Way, and United Way is kind of helping shepherd us through the process. We've identified some agencies to be the resources for the public to reach out to. Those folks will engage with those particular agencies, apply for funding, and if they're approved, they will get their funding from those agencies. I'm not quite as reluctant to, we are targeting, and that's, I would use that word as a key word, we are targeting rolling that out on March the 15th. And a part of that is because the resources that we are using for development and access and detail and identification, some of that timing is due to their own development of applications and process and so forth. But I think we're pretty comfortable right now with the idea or the expectation that we will be in a position to open that program up to, again, as Commissioner Nolte said, non-Kansas City Clay County residents on or about March the 15th.
By the way, I do want to point out that I neglected to acknowledge the county administrator's pivotal role in this. Tom's done a great job of making sure that the team is on track and doing what we need to be doing. So he has also been very involved in this particular process. I did not want to let that go unsaid. With that, before I want to go back for follow-up from you, but I want to go ahead and check with the other commissioners, see if there's anything that they would care to add or ask. Commissioner Carpenter?
No, I mean, I appreciate the administrator's comments. Look forward to getting the 3.6 million distributed. I think it can do a lot of good.
Commissioner Thompson?
No, I have no comments, except for, our county administrator and some of the other members of our community here in the county have really done a great job working on this, and they've been doing a good job of keeping me informed as well. So I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to getting this money out there and helping people out in this tough time.
Well, that's very good news. I just think it's super important because there's an awful lot of tenants out there that are struggling right now. And if the tenants struggle, that goes downhill to the landlords. So thank you very much. I'd also like to say it's very nice to come into this room in a pleasant, non-war zone environment. Thank you.
Well, we certainly appreciate the fact that citizens feel free to come in and ask us questions. I appreciate all that's being done in that line. Please proceed.
Steve Sirks, budget consultant to the county. This week wraps up my last week of participation with the county and working with the county staff and budget team. I appreciate the confidence that the commission has entrusted to me and the budget team to bring the 2021 budget in. I've enjoyed working with each of you and all the office holders and significant members of the staff, and it's been a very, very pleasant experience, and I'm glad to see there's so much transparency going on in the county government now, and friendliness. It's nice to see people walking around and not being afraid to talk to each other or talk to people in other departments, and that's been very refreshing and gratifying. I particularly enjoyed getting to know and working with County Administrator Salisbury, and overall it's been a great experience, and I appreciate your all's trust in myself and the budget team. Without them, that it could not have come off as successfully as it did, so I appreciate that. So thank you for that. I stand ready if needed to be called back out of retirement again. But I'm looking forward to getting back into retirement, and as the weather continues to warm, doing some gardening and some camping and some hiking. So thank you.
I believe the administrator did have something he wanted to say on that line. So, Mr. Administrator, if you'd like to proceed.
Thank you. Captain Sirks just did an end run, and I'm a little hot about that. Just a comment to his comments, I would add, and I would have led off with this, but everybody at this table and quite a few other people in county government knows what an exercise the budget process was at the time, and given a change in administration, it became an even more compressed, kind of stressful process. And I don't think it's possible to overstate the valuable help that Captain Sirks was as we worked through a budget process that, again, was very open and allowed for hearings. And what he brought in terms of his expertise from his time in the sheriff's office was, again, invaluable. I don't think it's possible to overstate the value of that. In addition to that, he became a very good counsel for me as an assistant, and he is the one that has initiated his exit. But what I do have is his cell phone number. And so this summer, when he's in the North Woods of Minnesota camping out, and that phone rings at 10 p.m., there's no telling who it might be. But
would you like to put that number on the record just for the general public?
I may be changing my cell phone number.
I would like it read into the minutes that we are so grateful for his service, both in the sheriff's office, but also in helping us with this process. And we've developed a good relationship, and he's a valuable, I'm going to use the term, former county employee here very soon. But I would ask the commission to kind of codify our thanks to him for his service and wish him well on his new adventures. Thank you. And thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Yes, I've got to tell you that we were thrilled to have you come back, because not just your expertise in budgeting and your experience with the county and the inner workings of county government, but your personality and your calming influence helped to really, it went well beyond your duties on the budget, way beyond those duties that you originally hired for, and that you performed an outstanding job, not only in bringing our financial house into order, and there were some obvious challenges that we had to work with. You never shirked from them. You always embraced those challenges and made sure that we came out with the best possible outcome for the county. But as I said, the idea that you were able to bring that kind of steady hand and that kind of wise counsel to a lot of what we were doing as we were changing from one commission administration to another was very much appreciated, certainly by myself, and I know a great number of people, both in this building and outside of this building, owe you a debt of gratitude. Commissioner Carpenter, would you like to make any comment?
Yeah, just want to offer my sincere thanks, Steve. I appreciate all the work you've done, and we'll miss seeing you around here quite a bit, but wish you well. And with the gardening and the hiking and the camping, it all sounds lovely to me, so wish you well in retirement. And yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Thompson.
I'm very sad to hear that you're leaving us so soon, Steve, but I completely understand. You need to get back to retirement and spending time with your dogs and your cats and your lovely wife, and I completely understand. But you will be missed, and I have enjoyed seeing you gracing the hallways as I'm scurrying by and getting my coffee and gathering my papers. Your knowledge and institutional knowledge and your leadership skills here have been wonderful. And I hope you would consider coming back and out of retirement again for us. If I call you up and we all decide, and you would come visit us again, at least come have coffee with us and maybe some cupcakes or something. But no, you will be missed, and I do appreciate everything you've done for us.
Well, thank you for the kind words and comments, and I'd just like to say it's been an honor and a privilege, and one of the highlights of my professional career. And you have a good staff of county people working here for you, and they want to do the best they can every day for the Clay County citizens, and that's what's job one, and they do a great job. So thank you for that honor.
Okay, that brings us to, are there any other comments from the public on non-agenda items? Seeing none. Commissioner comments on non-agenda items. Something that I would like to bring up that is a recent occurrence, and I would certainly welcome the other commissioners to comment on as well, and that is that we have in fact dropped our legal opposition to the state audit. It was, of course, the unanimous will of this commission, and we tasked our counsel to make sure that we were able to go forward with that and drop our opposition and the roadblocks that had, in fact, been there for some time. This is something that well, actually, a member of the public here today had a very large hand in. Mr. Scarfino had a very great role to play in putting together the petition. The thing about a petition request is that it is an unmistakable voicing of the will of the people, and I'm very gratified that we are able to now go forward in a way that will be in the best interest of the people. This is emblematic to me of what this new commission is about, and this is the kind of a thing that you get when you elect two fine individuals that are on either side of me to come in and start cleaning up county government and start making sure that we are accountable. That's huge. This is, I think, one in the many, I hope, series going forward, actions of this commission, where we will be promoting transparency, accountability, and a willingness to work with our citizens and work with those elected individuals at different levels of government in the best interest of the people. I think that I think that this is really a watershed moment. We wasted a lot of time, we wasted a lot of money, and there's no way to get back either of those things. But the idea that we have a group of commissioners working here today who express the kind of dedication to this cause is reason for gratification and reason for optimism as we go forward. We talked a moment ago about the Bicentennial Commission and the fact that we are turning a page in this county. This is one more, I think, very tangible example of how that page is being turned in Clay County and how we are renewing our commitment that is embodied in the oath of office that each and every one of us swore to when we were elected. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Commissioner. This has been a long time coming. We've been really looking forward to the opportunity to put all of this behind us and move forward. And this is another example of, we made a promise to the citizens that we were going to end this bickering and the fighting, and this is a promise kept. This is just one more, and we're going to have many more of these. But I personally look forward to welcoming the state auditor back into the courthouse, working with them to get the documents that they need to complete the citizen mandated audit, and just moving on. So we have nothing to hide here in Clay County, and I want them to come on in. So, and I think everyone else feels the same way. So.
Commissioner Carpenter, would you like to make comments on that issue? And also, obviously, this is for open comments, so, but I thought you might want to address that one at the same time it was brought up.
You mean the audit? Absolutely. Yeah, I'm thrilled that we're moving in this direction. I think it's in the best interests of the residents of Clay County. Proud to be a member of the commission that is moving us in this direction, and I think, you know, we've spent millions of dollars at this point in taxpayer dollars on unnecessary lawsuits, so it's I'm grateful to see that coming to an end, and I'm also looking forward to fully complying with our state auditor and her team to get a thorough audit, and that way we can learn lessons from the past and apply best practices going forward to better serve the people who live here, and I'm really glad we're doing it.
Thank you. That was an important point to bring up, Commissioner Carpenter, that this is not just about looking backward, but looking forward to getting recommendations to how we can improve the way that we administer this county, and so that we can comply with best practices. That was my comment that I had on comments on non-agenda items by commissioners. So I would like to go ahead, since that was kind of a forced issue in a way. I want to see if Commissioner Thompson has any other issues that she would like to make comment on that were not on today's agenda.
I don't feel like I do. I feel like we've covered a lot. We've had a lot of big information today and a lot of excitement, and I'll just leave it with that.
Thank you. Commissioner Carpenter.
No additional comments. Thank you, Commissioner.
That brings us to any comments on non-agenda items from office holders. Are there any? Yes, we have someone approaching the podium. Please.
Amy Agdarian, Clay County Sheriff's Office. I mean, at this point, I opened the meeting. I feel like I should close it too. I didn't want to interrupt it. Yeah, thank you. I'll take that. At the appropriate time, I wanted to express to Steve Sturks, on behalf of the Sheriff's Office, our sincere thanks for sticking around and helping the county through this budget process, but also being able to guide the Sheriff's Office and help us make some sense of where we were at, and so helping us to identify some issues and just helping us and being there. And on a personal note, I need you to stop retiring, because it just tears my heart out every single time you do this, and now it's twice. I had the opportunity to work for Captain Sturks for 8 years and learned a lot from him about the budgeting process and various other things in the last probably 3 years. And I would like to thank him very much on a personal note for the opportunities to learn. And we will miss him with the sheriff's office. And I do know how to find you. I have friends in Montana. So just wanted that to be on the record that his years of service with the sheriff's office are going to be missed, but his legacy will continue to benefit the taxpayers and the citizens and the sheriff's office and the whole county. So thank you.
Are there any other office holders who would care to comment on any non-agenda items at this time? Are there any other agencies who would care to comment, or any other persons present who would like to comment on any non-agenda items? Seeing none, that concludes comments on non-agenda items. That brings us to approval of the minutes. We have two sets of minutes to be approved. I would entertain a motion on the approval of either individually or as a group for the two sets of minutes that we have. We have January 28, 2021, 10 a.m. meeting. We have February 4, 2021, 7 p.m. meeting minutes to examine and approve. Is there a motion related?
I move that we approve the minutes from January 28 and February 4.
Motion has been made for the approval of both sets of minutes listed in our agenda. I will give a moment for any commissioners to peruse the sets of minutes that we have, just so that those watching understand. These minutes have been distributed prior to this, so that they have, in fact, the commissioners have looked them over, but I'd like to give one extra opportunity to look them over before we go for a vote on those. So approval has been, motion has been made for the approval. Commissioner Thompson, do you have any questions or thoughts that you'd like to express?
I don't, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Administrator, did you have anything?
No comment.
Okay. I do not have anything. I'm ready to go. Commissioner Carpenter, if you have any comments, you could make those and then go ahead and close.
Thank you. I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes?
The minutes for January 28, 2021, 10 a.m. and February 4, 2021, 7 p.m. have been approved. That brings us to written reports. Are there any written reports to be
The
submitted?
clerk has none.
Okay, there are none to be submitted to the commission. Executive sessions, none are listed on today's agenda. With that, that brings us to a recess and adjournment. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.